Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, I'm pleased to have a Torrington Raider himself, the senior Thomas Rooney, who's a first baseman and left-handed pitcher for the baseball program. Thomas, it's great to be able to have you on, and welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show podcast.
Thank you, Chris, and I really appreciate you having me on.
It's great to be able to have on Raiders, because I had Clink Scales during the football season. I've had Gaetan on, during the pandemic when things were canceled. So to have you on is fantastic. Thomas, I want to ask you, as far as before we get into your time with Torrington, kind of want to give a full picture, kind of go back a little bit. You're a big kid, so I'm sure it wasn't hard for you to be able to find sports to play. How did the game of baseball, or rather, how did sports find you?
So ever since I was little, I would always, keep active and be busy. And ever since I was younger, I always liked to play sports with my friends. And then I got into the youth leagues. I used to play soccer even, and that was fun. Baseball, I played when I was 3 years old, picking up a baseball, playing t-ball. Played basketball till like 8th grade, which was fun with all my friends. And yeah, sports just found me, and I found it too.
Now, were you always, and I don't mean big like fat. I don't mean that by me. I'm talking big.
No, I know.
Height. Were you always a big kid when you were
young?
Yeah,
I was always usually the tallest one. Yes.
Okay, so that must have been. I mean, how did you take that? Because sometimes being the tallest, I mean, I've heard stories from friends that who I know who were big at that age. They felt like they were kind of, and I'm not saying you were, but kind of like alone, because like kids were like intimidated because of the size. Was that like that with you?
Yeah, and usually like in elementary school recess, they'd always pick me to be on their team for like a kickball game or a football game. It was always just fun to play.
That's funny. So as you were progressing in your sports, I know you mentioned you played basketball, you played soccer, obviously baseball and such. When did you start to focus strictly, or rather give more attention to baseball?
So yeah, that's a good question. I played basketball all the way up until 8th grade with the PAL League. And then that freshman year, I played basketball too, actually, with my friends. And then after freshman year, I gave it a rest and focused on baseball. And I was working through the winter, fall, spring, and all that fun stuff.
Take me into your growth as far as, as a baseball player, because the game of baseball from when you were younger until now, and I was talking about, I think with Drury with us, who's on Woodland, about how you guys are kind of, the first class really of being able to go through what is now baseball with analytics, launch angle, you name it, all the high tech stuff, Rapsodo and everything else. For you, is that something that you've kind of welcomed, or are you more like old school?
Yeah, so honestly, I don't really pay attention to the new technology and all that stuff. I just play the game the way it's supposed to be played, and it speaks for itself, really. Sometimes I'll do like Rapsodo. It's good to get some info for sure, but I don't really heavily rely on it, because in a game situation, it's much different than just getting a batting practice from a coach. You know what I mean?
Now, your growth from your freshman year until now, take me into that, because were you always a position and also a pitcher as well? Because first base and left-handed pitcher.
Right. So yeah. So I'm always been a lefty. Used to play first base because my height and also being a lefty also really helps. But pitching, I took pitching up when I was in like AA, Little League, and it was always just something I like to do. I used to always just pitch the ball, and then
So you said about just pitching the ball. Now, would you say that you're more, because obviously as a pitcher develops, a lot of times you start to realize, okay, because a pitcher and a thrower are two different things. I've mentioned this on broadcast. A thrower is basically, like you just said, all right, I'm just going to throw it wherever it goes, it goes. But a pitcher, there's a reason why the particular pitch is going to that particular spot. Where would you say you are in your development as far as a pitcher?
So yeah, locating pitches is definitely huge. You want to make sure you're pitching the right spots, especially if you know where the hitter's weaknesses are and strengths. You don't want to give it right down the middle all the time. And you also want to have that off-speed pitch, and it really shows the movement, and you don't want to keep it down the middle, switch up side to side. You know what I mean?
When I think of bigger, baseball players, bigger pitchers, I think about obviously the Randy Johnsons of the world, Roger Clemens was a big guy, but he was, sturdy and his legs were strong.
Oh
And
yeah.
the reason why I'm asking you this is because a lot of times for bigger pitchers, it takes a little bit longer to get that command down because obviously, there's a lot of moving parts and you're trying to figure out because your body is still growing even at a young age. So for
Right.
you, where would you say your command was a couple years ago and where is it now?
So yeah, my command usually was all over the place when I was younger. I couldn't really like find a spot. But now, like as I progressed, you really get into a flow of things, and you really get your mechanics down to a T, and then you just dial it up, and you get locked in.
You talk about the mechanics, and I want to ask you about that because I'm a lefty myself, played in college, and a lot of
Yep.
times because the way I threw, I would have like, and I wouldn't do this on purpose, but my wrist would kind of turn, and I wouldn't do it on purpose. But as you know, at being a lefty, the ball naturally cuts, it sinks. Basically, it's like Wild Thing on steroids. You don't know where it's going all the time. Maybe you
Right.
do, and that's great. So for you, did you have that same problem as far as the ball cutting when you didn't want to, or having that two seam arm side run inside on a lefty, or just talk to me about that?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because sometimes in my bullpens, I'll signal fastball, and all of a sudden it takes a drastic hook out of nowhere, and they're like, "Dude, you crossed me up," and I was like, "I didn't mean to. It's just how it. I don't know. It's weird that you say that because it's so true."
Hmm. That I'm telling you, it's just a lefty thing. Like we wear the hats a little bit crooked, the ball kind of cuts and sinks and whatnot. But
Right.
at the same time, though, that does allow, and I've always believed that lefties have better breaking balls if we can command it. How is your breaking ball?
So yeah, I usually I throw a slider.
Mm-hmm.
Just because my arm slot, I can't really get the 12-6 hang curve.
Mm-hmm.
But also my two seam is probably one of my favorite pitches to get people out on.
Do you have the ability to be able to throw inside and outside?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. Now, which one, when you were younger, which part of the plate was harder to command? Was it the arm side or the glove side?
It would be the glove side because I'd always be scared. I don't want to hit the batter.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I feel more comfortable throwing it in there, I
Mm-hmm.
usually just go glove side.
Now, when you talk about the glove side as well, and since I mentioned that, and you said you had a little bit of difficulty throwing inside, and that would be inside to righties, away to lefties.
Right.
So front
Yep.
door to righties, back door to lefties.
Yeah.
For you, was it because the struggle of throwing inside, because of maybe the finish in your delivery, maybe kind of throwing a little across your body, maybe not being fully closed? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, definitely could be a couple of those things. Definitely across the body is one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I'd come across and I'd release it later or not like release it earlier and then it would mess it all up. But now I'm over the top, which is nice, and you get it right on that black of the plate, which is right where you want it.
Now, when did you start to play varsity for Torrington? When was your
So
first year?
varsity, yeah. So freshman year, I was on the JV team.
Okay.
So we were playing, and it was fun. We got the reps in.
Mm-hmm.
Sophomore year was canceled, unfortunately, because of COVID. And then junior year, I played varsity with all my friends, and now starting first base and pitching for varsity as well.
So take me into your first varsity game. I mean, I'm sure you remember the game, the hit, the whole nine. Take me into that.
So yeah, my first game was against Oxford. It wasn't one of my best performances, that's for sure. But the team definitely came back and corralled me, and that Oxford Wolverine team was not an easy one to put away, that's for sure.
Now, you said you pitched that game, correct?
Yeah.
So what kind of, and I'm glad that you mentioned that too, as far as, your first varsity appearance being on the mound. I think, talk about the pace. Obviously, the quality of the hitter is going to be better than JV or freshman because they're on varsity for a reason, the best of the best.
Right.
Was the strike zone maybe a little bit different than what it was in JV and such? And also, too, the speed of the game. And I'm sure you were nervous as well.
Oh, yeah, I definitely had the yips, that's for sure. I was out there, and I just had to really just take my time. Like, my heart was racing. I just had to, do some breathing exercises in and out and make sure I got calmed down.
Mm-hmm.
But once I calmed down, I got it going back up again, which was good. But, yeah, definitely nervous, that's for sure. And the pace of the game was definitely a lot quicker, that's for sure.
Did you notice that your heart rate was starting to go up when you were playing catch with your catcher and long tossing, if you long toss, and also in the bullpen? When did you start to notice that?
Yeah, so right before, like in the bullpen, I was dialing in, I was good.
Mm-hmm.
And right when you step on the mound, it's just a whole different type of feeling.
Yep.
It's just like, wow, like I'm here right now. Like I really got to like lock in, relax. You know what I mean? But it's so much easier said than done because trust me, we've all been there.
Oh yeah, every pitcher has had one game or another. Sometimes it's their first. I mean, there was a kid I played with who had like a below 1 ERA as a starter at the college I went to, but he told me when we first started to become friends our freshman year of college that his first varsity start, he gave up a couple runs. He played for Platt. I think it was against Maloney was his first appearance, start, whatever. And this is a kid that never ever gets nervous, doesn't show ice in his veins, you know. But he said he got so nervous. And I think it just goes to show that it happens to everybody. It really does.
Oh yeah, 100%. And sometimes it's hard to control. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Now, talk to me about your first hit, man. I mean, where was that? And do you remember the team?
So my first hit, I'm trying to think. It was probably against like Will B. Crosby or something like that. First hit, and at Fusinish Park, you know, got the subs in a little bit because our first baseman last year was a senior, so he started most of the games. Okay. So I was more like a bullpen guy, but he got me in once, you know, Kennedy had get hit against or something like that. I don't know. I didn't really think of it as something crazy, really. I didn't really blow it out of proportion, but yeah, I got a hit.
Interesting. Okay. Now, Fusenich, I remember calling Torrington Titan games there when they were originally the FCBL before they disbanded. And there's so much history and so much talent has played on that field. I mean, I can only go off of what I remember from broadcasting games. Kevin Biggio, who is now with Toronto. His dad was a legend for the Astros, all-time hit leader, something like that, Hall of Famer. Jeremy Pena Jr., I think, was with the Titans. Now he has a chance to be the shortstop for the Astros. And there's so many other names too. Quattro, who was traded over from the Padres. He was a draft pick from Stanford. He's pitched on that same mound. So the question I have for you, playing at Fusenich, I feel like some people may get lost and may not know the full history of that. But you sound like you know that history. So how do you feel playing on that field and that being the home field for Torrington?
Yeah, so Fusinish Park is definitely one of those spots where history was born. And not only you mentioned those good names, but even before time, the Torrington Twisters were a thing. And Steven Strasburg was a pitcher also, and he pitched at Fusinish Park. And we're really grateful to have Fusinish Park as our home field. I'm sure every team that comes to play us loves playing that field just as much as we do. And we're happy to call it home because we really do love it.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about this season currently right now. You guys are currently 1-1. You lost your first game, won your second. First game was a loss to Woodland. It was a competitive game, and then it got a little bit out of hand. And then you kind of were able to get back against Litchfield. So now, like I said, you're 1-1, basically clean slate. You're 0-0. That's kind of like where you want to be right now.
Right.
Coming into this season, I mean, there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of senior talent. Just talk to me about kind of the workouts and just the preparation for this season.
Right. So every time we have a practice or scrimmage or whatever it was, it's 100% effort, locked in, and it's straight. We're just working. We are working. And those workouts are very like put together, and we do everything as a team.
What kind of workouts were being done during the off season as far as you and the players? I mean, were you going through your own hitting drills, making sure that you guys threw enough? Because the way this season's looking like right now, it's going to be all hands on deck as far as pitchers, and the hitters they have to get used to playing. If Mother Nature keeps this up, you may be playing 5 games a week, potentially more.
Oh, I know. And it all started this week with, well, we're supposed to have a game today, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, practice Thursday, and then back at Naughty on Friday. But yeah, definitely, the weather needs to cooperate for us. That's for sure.
No, it definitely does. And I think it's one of those things where you can't control it and you just hope Mother Nature, and it's the spring too. The spring is like that where it's going to rain a whole lot. I'd rather it be rain than snow, but either way, it doesn't make great baseball conditions.
Oh God, no, not at all. So you said workouts put together by the team off season. We did a lot of hitting at the hit club in Thomaston.
Yep.
We did our own drills, and we did conditioning too. We preseason conditioning, which was huge. We got ourselves in shape all off season, and we're ready. We're ready to roll.
Now talk to me about my guy Semenich, because I saw him in football, and obviously he, between him, Rosado, and then Clinkscales, it was like a three-headed monster. Just talk to me about that and anybody else on the team that you want to mention.
Yeah, so Semenich, he is a leader for sure. He commands left field, and he is a vocal leader, and he corrals the team very well around him. And also my shortstop, Cooper Saminsky, he's a very good kid too. He really shows a lot of effort. He could hit the ball, and he's a great attitude and everything like that. And we have a senior, Jake, who plays center field. Also, he's a great hitter, great all-around kid, and boy, can he run.
Really? He's that fast?
Oh, he's fast. So is Cooper too. I like to see a race between them two.
And what position does the last player you mentioned play?
Jake Roble?
Yeah.
He plays center.
So you've got speed because Semenich is fast. He's not slow.
Yeah, he's pretty fast. I definitely wouldn't be able to catch him, but yeah, he's fast.
So you've got speed at left, center, and short. That's pretty good as far as commanding, obviously, the left side of the left side defensively. But to have that speed, I would think that must be utilized on the base paths. I know it's early, but I would think that'd be something you guys will probably wreak havoc on is the base paths.
Oh, 100%. We're going to take advantage of as much as we can get, whether it's a delayed steal or bounce ball past the catcher. Yeah, they're pretty fast on the base pass.
Now, just thinking about teams in the NVL, obviously St. Paul jumps out because they're like the 1990s like Oakland A's or 1980s Oakland A's where they just mash. Obviously, not every team is like that. So I'm going to ask you, as far as the lineup itself, obviously the power is probably not comparable to St. Paul, but what would you say the makeup as far as what kind of lineup could I expect if I ever go to a game?
So yeah, our lineup is we have some really good hitters. We have a lot of good contact hitters and some power hitters, and we all just connect as a team. Like we feed off each other's energy, which is huge. And once we get that first hit, we're rolling. You know what I mean? It's like we just keep continuing. It's like weird. I don't know how to explain it.
I take it if Semenich is not the one getting the hit. I mean, if he's getting a hit, the first one, he's probably louder than everybody. But if he's not the one getting the first hit, he's probably louder than the kid who just got the hit.
Oh, 100%. He's hyped up for sure.
That's funny. So speaking of players, is there any young player that I should kind of be on the lookout for as far as this, as this season continues?
Yeah, so we have a junior, Joe DePippo, who plays third base, and he's a right-handed pitcher on our team. Great bat, great all-around kid. He definitely will make some noise this season, that's for sure.
And we can't forget about the bump. We got to give respect to the pitchers. Anybody on the pitching side that I should be on the lookout for?
Oh yeah, we have some good pitchers. Joe, definitely a good pitcher. We have Melvin Alvarez, who's also a good pitcher on our team. Ryan Green. Yeah, we have a good staff, and we also have a great core of young guys too, like Aiden Colucci, lefty, who pitches great pickoff move. I don't know. Everyone says it's a balk, but it's a good move. He gets away with it. But yeah, this team has a lot of young talent, and I can't wait to see how much we progress throughout the season.
I need to see this pickoff move because I'm pretty good at judging if it's a balk or not, because as you know, being a lefty, every time we throw to first, it's basically a balk. So
yeah, you hear the other team saying balk, this is like.
But don't forget though, every time you throw it to first base, regardless if it's your A move or your F move, make sure you kick the dirt where you landed with your right foot, because that way the umpire, because the umpires, I learned this at a young age, so I'm trying to share it. The umpires always look at that spot, because if you don't repeat that, regardless if it's your A or F move, they're going to call a balk. So that's why you got to kick the dirt. So
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Word to the wise. Tell that to any other lefties too. It works. I'm telling you, it works.
I will let them know.
So Thomas, before I let you go, and it's great to be able to have you on the podcast, I want to talk a little bit about obviously yourself and you're going off to play or going off to college. You're not going to play though, however, but you're going to probably be protecting the president 10 years from now in the Secret Service or whatever. But just kind of take me into why you chose the school that you did. And yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to University of New Haven for a 4-year Homeland Security and Emergency Management degree. So I chose New Haven because I love the area. It's like there's a lot to do down there, and you're not too far away from Boston or New York City, and you can always catch a Yankees game on the train right down there.
Yes, you can. I did that quite a bit when I was down in New Haven for college. So you're smart to already know the ins and outs of that.
Oh yeah.
And also too, I mean, so with you not being able to play baseball, I mean, if you decide that you want to, I'm sure there's going to be an opportunity for you if you want to at least get an opportunity there. But how hard is it knowing that this is your final season and it's like every game, it's like you want to make sure that you leave everything out there?
Yeah, so this year is gonna be one of those seasons that I'm not gonna forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Senior season. I'm gonna play every game like it's my last until it is my last. And I don't want to see a last game, but unfortunately we all have to face it at some point. And yeah, I can't wait to see how much damage we do this season.
I remember the quote in Moneyball by the old scout who the actor was playing, and he said, regardless if you're 15 or 40, we're all too old to play a child's game. That goes for football, baseball, etc. So, try to enjoy it the best you can. Thomas, it was great to be able to have you on. I wish you and, the Torrington Raiders nothing but the best of luck the rest of the season. And hopefully I'll have on Semenich and Cooper and a couple other players if they're willing to come on this podcast.
Yeah, sounds great. And I really appreciate you having me on.
No problem. That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm Journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.